you know.
All right, well, let's see who can break something out here on a much more aggressive map that doesn't really preclude using those thirds, but pretty damn close to the southwest position in the red trunks. Playing Zerg, he is Root Kane. Versus his opponent to the northeast position in the blue trunks playing Terran, Complexity QXC.
Yeah, Kane has shown a definite tendency to go for roach aggression, and if you're going to do it on any map, this one is as good a choice. Because very short rush distance, pretty open, low ground natural.
Yep.
Not impossible to hold by any means. You have a little high ground cliff over the choke, so he can put stuff up there. If he wants to rush out a tank, that would just absolutely shut it down. In fact, it would be pretty smart of him to actually try and go for that, because I think a roach Bane bust is a pretty decent prediction in terms of strategy from Kane. And then as for QXC, I think he just has to go mech. His bioplay just isn't nearly as good at it. It doesn't play to his strengths at all.
Well, it certainly didn't help him in that game, I'll tell you that for a fact. It was almost the case if he couldn't even get his bio out on the map to do anything with it anyway. So even when he did have to take those fights, they were in really uncomfortable positions. We've got Command Center first coming down here from QXC, reverting back to what he is comfortable with here. Do you think Command Center first is a bit of a risk on Neoplanet S?
It's so rare for Zergs to actually open up with a quick pool, because if you actually put the command center in your wall and complete the wall in, then even then, with command center first, which is literally as greedy as Terran can get,
yeah,
the 10 pool doesn't do anything if it's actually in the wall. So in order to have any kind of early Zergling rush work, you actually have to have the CC on the low ground, and it's a gigantic risk to take to expect your opponent to do that. Anything else, you just run into a wall, it does nothing. So really, the CC first isn't much of a risk, just because no one's likely to actually go pool that early.
Always good to know. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it on the ladder if you happen to be a low league, however.
It may be a bit more dangerous then, yeah.
Just a bit. I had a period of time where for about a week my philosophy was CC first or die trying, and it was mostly die trying.
Yeah, you get a lot more Zerglings at that level.
You do indeed. It is unfortunate. One way or the other, this is a higher level, and Kane is mining gas once again. Kane definitely has not shown a tendency towards the more gasless queen-heavy style. He likes to get that very early speed out, and it does set him up quite nicely for that earlier roach aggression that you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Kane, I believe he's open speedling every single game thus far, and Kane is one of those players who used to be really cheesy, and he's developed out of that, but he still has that aggressive tendency in him.
Yeah.
And that actually makes him a very dangerous player, as he's now good enough to play out a macro game with pretty much anyone in North America. But he also has the ability to play those cheesy builds and to do those aggressive styles, which means you have to play much more cautiously against him. And opening up with speedling every time just kind of exaggerates that fact, because it always gives him the potential to do anything that he wants, and it also gives him the map control and the speedlings to prevent your scouting. And then, as we saw in the last game, he can just go ahead and put down a third hatch and play macro anyway. So it's really good. Just a really good opening for his style. It really complements him well.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's actually the same kind of style that we saw against Massa, which was a big aggressive back-and-forth game. And he did take out Massa 2-0 in a pretty convincing fashion. But it was always the aggression. I don't really remember a game from... I'm pretty sure he played Ling Ultra in both games, actually, against Massa. And it was that strange cheese early against QXC that really kind of threw me and said, this is not Kane's style. But at the end of the day, as you accurately mentioned, he has so much up his sleeve that he could pull out anything. But of course, he's up against a player that can do exactly that as well.
Yeah, but really, I feel that the mind games have been going in Kane's favor thus far. He's accurately predicted QXC playing pretty greedy, very tech-oriented openings, and he's punished that a couple of times with those Roach all-ins. On Aklon, it ended up not actually winning him the game, but he made a good read on his opponent. He did a strategy that coulda, shoulda, woulda worked, and just QXC held very well and then transitioned out of it very well. And the follow-up cheese was what actually cost Kane the game. So I feel like he's playing pretty intelligently for his opponent's style, which is something that we had to question going in, because he's not as much of a tournament player.
No.
Not a whole lot of best of fives under his belt, but he's been playing it very intelligently thus far. And we see actually no Roach War in this game. He is putting down that third base, so we're not going to see another Roach Bane bust.
Let's have a look. We are looking at... We're only seeing 3 gas being taken so far, but he also hasn't built his lair either, so I'm intrigued to see where this goes. Obviously, with the double Evo chamber, it's extremely likely that we will see the same Ling Baneling into Mutalisk style, although it's not entirely impossible that there might be something else.
I think as he's gotten a pretty good amount of scouting information here. He sees the 2 factories, so probably going to have to respond to that with Roaches. Not sure. He does have Spore Crawlers up. He sees the Hellbat drop coming, the potential Hellion drop.
And there is the missile attack upgrade.
Yeah, he is preparing for that, and yeah, definitely going into Roach Hydra. It'll be interesting to see how he actually responds to this. If he's going to try and do another Roach drop all-in, or any kind of all-in like he did on Aklon in response to Mech, or if he's actually going to try and play this out into a long game like he did on Whirlwind. And unfortunately for him, he lost both of those games, so he doesn't really know what kind of style he's most comfortable with here.
No,
but that medevac might actually fall. Medevac just barely gets away with 3 of the 4 Hellions.
I don't think he was expecting 3 Queens to just be sitting there. Evidently not. He didn't respond that quickly to that at all. That drop was shut down very convincingly there by Kane. And this medevac's going to have to go home. He can't risk taking that into a base filled with anything.
No, one more Queen touches that and it falls apart. Yeah. But those Zerglings are still on the map. He did salvage 3 of them from that. So the attack didn't do any damage, but it didn't cost him too much, and it's still a pretty comfortable opening. His 3rd CC is coming up. He's already getting upgrades. He has more factories coming. And just the threat of drops later on in the game, threat of Hellbats, that has to put Kane kind of on the back foot. So it's not like a failed opening by any means. And getting quite a few drone and Zergling kills, this is a really terrible position for Kane to try and engage with those Zerglings.
Yeah, I mean, 9 Hellions in the mix. There's no way he's going to be able to go in there without at least some Queen support to make this work. He goes in anyway. He will be able to drill his way through there eventually, and that was surprisingly efficient considering what he was doing, but there's only so far you can really go with that, and QXC is going to be able to get out of there having only lost 3 Hellions. Number of workers killed is 13, so that was a great strike.
Yeah, 3 Hellions for 13 drones, and pretty much all of the Lings he had on the map. That's just absolutely massive. And that's more than paid for the failed drop. And speaking of drops, we actually have another medevac, except loaded up with Hellbats this time, headed across the map. There's already a Spore Crawler there, but if he chooses to boost past it, he can get into the mineral line very easily anyway.
Well, this is starting to look a little bit uglier for Kane here. And the road speed is on the way, but there are no roads on the map. Double 4 is coming out from QXC. Something, I mean, I see mech style used an awful lot, but double 4 this early is a little bit out of the ordinary, I would say.
This far, he's only seen Zerglings and the double Evo chamber, so he may be worried about a Mutaling Bane all-in or something of that sort, so he wants the Thors to counter the Mutas. That's the only thing that really makes much sense to me. Because you're right, generally, in this case, and just generally, people will go Roach against Mech unless you only want tanks and Hellbats out. More Hellion harass down the 6 o'clock base, doing more and more damage to Kane's drones.
Yeah, Roaches are now finally out. 24 workers have been killed in total, which puts QXC in a pretty damn good spot. And we would have to see another big round of drones coming in from Kane. I mean, he can't sit on 50 drones on 3 bases. That's not going to work, especially if he's going for this big, expensive Roach style. And now we have QXC sitting with these Thors, which is such a strange thing to have at this stage. And a pretty early tech to hive here from Kane as well.
Yeah, exceptionally early hive. That almost must be for very fast Vipers. And Roach Hydra Viper is very good counter strategy to Mech. Particularly on a map like this. The problem with Roach Hydra Viper is that if you split the map and Terran just plays very, very defensively, you're going to end up with almost wasted supply. You're not going to be able to break them, and it's just, more Hellbats in the 6 o'clock, just constant harassment down there, never letting Kane get his drone count up.
Yeah, this is really, hurting him badly. The Queen count is definitely helping. He's gone up to 6 Queens, which is a decent way to clean up Hellbats. Thankfully, Queens don't die too quickly to that, but regardless, QXC is definitely keeping Kane on the back foot here. The 3rd base was established. The Lings unfortunately engaged against a single Hellbat and it didn't really go all that well for them. And now QXC is mining pretty comfortably. He actually hasn't rallied his SCVs, so he's going to have an idle one there, but he notices that pretty quickly, so no big deal. Roach attack. Well, this could definitely do something. The tanks are out of position to deal with it, so yeah, this could do some damage, but he just forces his opponent off the mineral line, then immediately backs off.
Yeah, unfortunately for Kane, he's had to spend all of his production replacing those drones that he was losing, and another drop coming in, and this one shut down, so he is kind of establishing himself, but actually another Hellbat drop coming in. And this is where QXC gets so annoying. He's very, very persistent about just the constant drops and harassment all game long. He's very comfortable with the efficiency of his units on the defense. He feels that if his opponent wants to attack him, he's going to lose workers back at home. And that's really the best part about QXC's mech. And like I was saying, he's had to spend so many larvae trying to replace those drones that he just has no standing army. There's no threat to QXC at all.
No, there really is not. 60 drones versus 73 SCVs and 7 mules coming in on the field. A massive economic lead there for the Terran player. Viper's on the way, and Kane is definitely struggling here. QXC does not have a particularly big army, but he does have a lot of tanks. And as you said, what's Kane been able to do? Roach Run By comes in, at least delays this command center a little bit, but now there's Thors, Hellbats, and tanks on the map, which will be able to handle that without too much of a problem. He's even going to go for the Supply Depot wall-off right there to ensure those run-bys can't really happen anymore. Kane's in a tough spot. Where does he go from here?
His best bet is to just hope for a really good engagement. Vipers can be incredibly cost-efficient against the mech army. If you get all the tanks sieged up in one group, the internet blipped for a second, but it looks like it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you get all the tanks sieged up together and you get a blinding cloud over them, that can just completely turn the tides of a battle. But Kane just has so few units, even with really good blinding clouds. I'm not sure if he can do very much about this army.
It's big and scary and has a lot of firepower with it. It's 1-1 upgraded, so Kane does have a lead in that respect. He's about to finish +2 as well, which is always nice to see. There's the blinding cloud going down the tanks, quite nice. And those tanks won't really be doing all that much. Pretty decent engagement so far here by Kane. QXC surprisingly did not unsiege anywhere near as quickly as I thought he would, and he's going to lose all of the Thors here as well. So, you were talking about that good engagement. Well, that was exactly what that was.
Yeah, that went absolutely as well as Kane could hope for. QXC moved out too early, to be honest, and Kane just pounced on it, took absolute advantage of it. But really, another Hellbat dropped down at the 6 o'clock, forcing the drones off that again. And QXC just a ton of production back at home, 3 bases running full swing. So that was as well as Kane could do, but he needs another 3 or 4 engagements like that to actually make it back into this game and really have much of a chance at winning.
Well, another Hellbat drop comes in, and this will get shut down. Noticing... Man, I look at Hellbats, I'm like, why don't these things die as quickly as they're supposed to?
That is the biggest surprise about them. It's not really the damage they deal. Everyone knows that they kill anything light that gets close to them, but the real big thing is just how tanky they are. They take a ton of damage to actually take it out. And part of that, of course, is because the medevacs sit there healing them the whole time. And just more Hellbats down at 6 o'clock. And behind this, QXC is doing something really smart. He's actually double expanding again. And the problem with his style is it's so annoying that Zerg feels like they have to be all over the place, and so on top of that, it becomes very hard to actually control the map. So QXC just expands everywhere and hopes that some of them will get up because his opponent is so distracted. And if he manages to get a planetary at one of those 2 bases, all of a sudden he's at 4 base versus 4, and there's nothing Zerg can really do about it.
Yep, QXC has another army up, and he's going to play the very, very turtly mech style, whereby he even puts down missile turrets, knowing that he doesn't really have an awful lot of anti-air. In fact, he has basically none, aside from those Vikings there. A couple of Roaches managed to find a command center. We had actually Ling... Oh, QXC actually hasn't put that down yet. He's a little bit busy dealing with this massive Roach run-by that completely circumvented his army and came around behind it, and is now going to make its way into the natural here, but this kind of has to be a really good strike for Kane, because if he doesn't get out right now, he's going to be trapped.
Yeah, but he did realize that the army was coming back and that it would be out of position, which gives him the opportunity to come in here with the blinding clouds and the abducts.
Very nice.
Because the tanks aren't set up, so this is a really good engagement for Kane here.
Yeah, more blinding clouds come down, and he loses some Roaches here and there, but he can definitely afford it. He has the upgrade advantage now with +3. This Planetary Fortress barely lived through that, and that was a fantastic play there by Kane, and he puts himself right back in front after that one.
Although, we do have another 2 Hellbats, it's kind of the story of the game. Another 2 Hellbats over at the 9 o'clock base, actually just hitting the hatchery. So if he holds back at home, then he might be okay, but that's just such a big army, and Kane's being so very efficient with it. QXC, more tanks set up back at home, but there's plenty of mana left on the Vipers to actually just nullify them.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job with the blinding clouds here. QXC not being fast enough to undeploy, and these Roaches are so low, but he's still able to do damage with them. This Hellbat will probably kill like all of them, but you know, it's pretty good anyway. And now we've got more Hellbats popping out. The SCVs are coming off the line here as QXC tries to get an efficient hold here. That hatchery did actually die to Hellbats, so we can officially say that they pretty much kill anything on the ground now. And now the Roaches are coming in and dealing with this natural, and QXC is taking a absolute pounding here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if QXC is actually going to be able to stabilize here. Kane is very nearly all in. He only has 3 bases running, and they're not on full drones. And QXC has that top left secured, but if he can't do anything about this army, then that's going to be the end of it. It's into his production. He really, really has to clear this up, and I don't think he can.
I don't see what he can do it with. You know, there's a lot of Roaches here. There are still Vipers. There's a couple of Vikings now making their way out, so at least he can take the casters out of the mix. But even then, there's just a lot of damage to try and deal with. There are more Roaches following this up. He may be able to get enough units out, but it also matters about where they pop out. If they pop out in the middle of the Roaches before they're able to do anything, just like that, for instance, then they're not going to be of any use. And that one's actually too close. The Roaches are going to kill it over the cliff. And it's now 149 to supply to 89 as QXC continues to try and desperately hold on here as Kane just hits everywhere he can.
Yeah, this is the same situation as the Whirlwind game, except it's going much better and there's no Thor. Kane is he smells blood. He wants to go in for the kill. He doesn't want to keep dealing with the super annoying mech style of QXC. So he's just rallying units to his opponent. He doesn't care what else is happening back on the map. He's just going in for the kill. And it looks like QXC's kind of stabilized his main, but going to lose the third base now. Yep. He's lost a lot of factories. He just can't produce anywhere near the rate he has resources coming in. But more Hellbats out attacking on the map. 6 o'clock under attack again, but cleaned up. And that's just a big mass of roaches running around, and QXC doesn't have any answer to it for the time being.
No, he doesn't. Unless Kane decides to back off, which it looks like he is for the time being. That might give QXC a little bit of breathing room, but QXC is way behind at this stage. There's no real question about that. He has an upgrade disadvantage. There are more Vipers coming onto the map here as well. Kane is grouping up a large number of units, and this planetary is going to be... yeah, it's going to be on borrowed time, I think. That's not going to be living for too long at all, and Kane has found it. He knows it's there, and is now going to go and engage it with everything he's got, and this could very well be a planetary that dies in about 2 seconds. Yep, that was about 2 seconds. Ouch. Never mind.
Yeah, but top left is up and running. If that manages to stay for any length of time, if we look at their incomes, they're actually relatively similar, which is surprising given how much damage QXC has taken.
Yeah.
And QXC does now have mech units up in a defensive posture, which is very, very difficult to break, but it's more than a 100 supply lead. I don't know if QXC actually can do anything with it, despite how efficient his position can be.
Yeah, it's difficult. It really, really is. We still see this kind of lower tech army, I guess, from Kane, but with Vipers in the mix, especially with those upgrades, I don't see that mattering. I mean, I don't suppose there is a transition out of Roach, Hydra, Viper, is there? Unless it's some weird, funky tech switch.
You can start mixing in Ultras. You can mix in a couple of Broodlords as a Siege Breaker. If you have a ton of economy and your opponent does as well, then you can just lose everything and do a massive Broodlord switch and catch him off guard, things like that. But in a low econ situation like this, absolutely not. He's going to stick on Roach, Hydra, Viper and just wait for a good opportunity with his Vipers. More Hellbats in the 6 o'clock base, cleaning that up. And the hatchery is actually down to about half health now. But he does keep all of his drones alive there.
Yep, pretty damn important. QXC just trying to stabilize and trying to get as many units out on the map as he can. But we're looking now at 200 supply Zerg versus 96 supply Terran, and even an upgrade advantage in the favor of Kane. This attack could very well be the end of QXC's tournament life here.
Yeah, it definitely should be. If there's no way Terran can hold this off. It doesn't matter the amount of tanks and Widow Mines and whatnot he has set up. He has no real answer to the Vipers. He can abduct everything, he can blinding cloud everything, and a max of Roach Hydra, not the most efficient composition, but going to be more than enough to just slam through here.
Yeah, QXC actually taking a bit of a risk, sending 5 Hellbats out, looking to try and engage here. The thing is the static defense being built, and here comes the engagement, and this could very well be the end of QXC's tournament as Kane goes in, and there's the GG, and Kane will advance to the round of 4.
Yeah, really great play by him. There were times during that game where it definitely seemed like he was down and out of it, but just kept his head about him, got really good engagements, and just kept dealing with the super annoying Hellbats. Managed to pull it out.
And those Hellbats were all over the place. They really, really were. Just, it was looking so bad for Kane for a while.
Yeah, it's really kind of admirable how persistent QXC is with that harass, no matter how much attacks he was taking, how much pressure he was under, how bad the engagements were going. He always made sure that he had a counterattack going on, that he had Hellbats out on the map. And that's just so important to keep in mind with this kind of thing. And it's something most players can't do. Most players don't have the presence of mind to do that while they're under pressure, and he did. And it almost swung the game back for him while he was at a big disadvantage. Just, it wasn't enough to deal with the massive units coming out of Kane.
Yeah, and I've got to say I really liked Kane's positioning when he managed to avoid the main army, swing around to the south of the map there, pick off the tanks at the back, pick off the reinforcements, and then take a favorable engagement against unsieged units in the center of the map, and that really swung the game back in his favor.
Yeah, that's definitely what won it for him. That initial move out by QXC was kind of questionable, and Kane won that battle decisively, but that wasn't enough to pull him back into the game. It was the fact that he caught QXC out of position, he took advantage of it, and then he realized exactly where he needed to engage to make the most out of his Vipers and to make the least out of QXC's tanks, and he did it perfectly.
Nicely played there by him. All right, well, after a lengthy delay, we will be going on to the third series, in fact, which will be Minigun versus Drunken Boy in a bit of PvT action. and we will be taking a brief break to get that sorted out. Thank you very much for your patience today, folks. You're watching SHOUTcraft America. We now know, of course, who the first round of 4 contestants will be. It will be Ghost User versus Kane in the round of 4. 2 Zerg enter and 1 Zerg will leave, going through to the grand finals, and of course that will all be played out tomorrow in a best of 7 format. Let's find out who will go into the second semi-final. Minigun versus Drunken Boy coming right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SHOUTcraft America, where hopefully everything isn't broken anymore. We've got the third series coming in after a lengthy delay. Been looking forward to this one. If you want to watch some TVP action, then what better way to do it than watch these two guys? We've got Minigun and Drunken Boy on the line before their best of 5. Minigun, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks.
How's it been going for you today?
Pretty good. Just been watching the cast. Been enjoying myself.
I've been surprised you've been able to watch the cast, considering it's barely been streaming properly, but...
Well, when it's up, I have.
Yeah, when it works, it's been absolutely fantastic. Drunken Boy, welcome back to the show after your exceptional performance in your group.
Yo, what's up?
It went pretty well for you, didn't it? You were one of the 2 players to actually go through your group 4-0. Were you expecting that to happen, or did you just find the groove that day?
I was pretty confident that day.
Okay, that's good to see. You actually did end up knocking your teammate down to the lower bracket there. Do you feel like a horrible person yet?
Not really. It's just fun and games for us.
It's good to know. So, Minigun, you actually bragged in Group A that your PvT was your strongest matchup right now. Would you still say that's the case?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. Drunken Boy, you did get a chance to take on Terran and Zerg in your group. You didn't get to touch Protoss, so how are you feeling about that?
On ladder, it's my best matchup apparently, and it's his worst, I think, this season.
Really?
So it should be like easy.
Really?
Yeah. Minigun,
Think
have you forgotten how to play PvT? Was there some kind of strange brain aneurysm that you suffered there, or is everything okay?
I thought it was going pretty well.
It says
guess not.
48%.
Ooh.
No way.
He's breaking the stats out, man. You can't let him get away with that.
I haven't played him enough, apparently, then.
All right, okay. Right, well, so, Minigun, we already saw, unfortunately, one Root player get knocked out, a fellow Root Protoss by the name of Puck. However, Kane just advanced, so are you intending to be the second Root player in the round of 4? Will you avenge your fallen Protoss comrade?
Oh, it'll be me and Kane in the finals, for sure.
Ah, okay. That would be interesting to watch. Drunken Boy, you have gained some notoriety lately because you performed really well in your qualifiers, and also in Group C, Group B, in fact, you put on an exceptional performance. So, what do you have to say to your newly acquired fans out there?
Just thanks for the support, and a lot of like the tips really helped me out.
Very, very cool.
Really appreciate it.
Remember, guys, you can tip the players if you like what they say, or you like what they do, or you don't like what they do. You can throw money at them. That's probably not a very good way of dealing with it, but I would recommend it anyway. SHOUTcraft.com is the place to go. Click the tip jar button, and then you can donate however much you want. Every little bit helps these guys. So, Minigun, any final words for Drunken Boy before we get into this?
Just apologize in advance for having to 3-0 him.
Drunken Boy.
You might have to retire after getting wrecked.
It might happen. It very well might. We'll see. Okay, guys, thank you very much to your stations, and we will get ready to kick off this best of 5. Now, Minigun and Drunken Boy. So, I know you've definitely got a lot to say about Minigun. We discussed earlier about how Drunken Boy's style was unexpected going into his group there. But Minigun claiming that PvT is his best matchup, and yet apparently, statistically, that is not the case. What do you reckon? Is he all bluster, or does he have a lot to back that up?
Ladder doesn't really... I wouldn't read too much into Ladder. If he says it's its best, it would not surprise me. His style seems to work very well for it. You just kind of... What he likes to do is just kind of sit back, take reasonably slow expansions, maybe harass his opponent a bit, but not really go for big attacks until he gets up to that big army. And PvT is all about getting up to 4 bases and getting that infinite gas, so you can just alternate back and forth or make both at once if you want, between Colossus and High Templar, since they both require very different responses.